Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. Zelenskyy is going to Davos, where he's going to have a meeting with the President of the United States, America, Donald Trump. That was stated by Axios. Zelenskyy is flying to Davos to meet with Trump. Earlier, Zelenskyy emphasized that he declined to go to Davos because he chooses Ukraine, not Economic Forum. Today, Trump announced his plans to meet with Zelenskyy, while the US president suggested that Zelenskyy might be presented in the audience. So this is exactly what the president of the United States of America was talking about. He said that I'm going to wait Zelenskyy here, and today we're going to have a meeting with him. I'm going to meet with Zelenskyy later today. I believe they're at points where they can come together and get a deal done. So this is a very important situation. Furthermore, according to information we have, the meeting between the president of Ukraine and the President of the United States of America is scheduled for 2 p.m. of Kiev time, so which most likely is going to happen very soon. Furthermore, another important thing is that today Steve Whitkoff is going to travel to the Russian Federation, where he's going to have a meeting with the President of the Russian Federation, Putin, and this meeting is going to take place somewhere around 8 or 9 p.m. of Moscow time. Progress has been made. The sides in the Ukraine negotiations are now in the final stage. The US Special Envoy is optimistic about settlement in Ukraine. The Ukraine settlement has come down to resolving one issue. We are talking about most likely territorial issues. Whitkoff confirms he is flying to Moscow on the evening of January 22nd. The President Trump spoke about creating a duty-free zone for Ukraine, which could radically change the situation. You will see industry start to relocate to this region in mass. Imagine you get a competitive advantage because you don't pay duties when importing goods into the United States of America. So this is a very important thing, but there is one important detail that I would like to point to attention, and this detail was emphasized by the President of the Russian Federation. So once again, today Whitkoff and Karchner is going to travel to the Russian Federation, and the President of the Russian Federation yesterday in the evening stated that Russia is discussing with the United States the use of Russia's frozen assets to restore territories affected by the fighting after a peace treaty between Russia and Ukraine is concluded. So which means that today the representatives of the United States of America and the President of Russia are not going to talk about the document they're going to sign about the peaceful settlement of the conflict. They're going to talk about money. They're going to talk about Russian frozen assets. The thing is that the United States of America, the European Union, and Ukraine probably want to use these frozen assets to restore the territory of Ukraine. Of course, the US companies, European countries will be involved in this process, and the Russians are saying that we will not allow you to use our frozen assets to restore the territory of Ukraine. We will allow you to use these assets only to restore the territory that is under control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. So basically, Russians want to use this $200 billion with the purpose to restore the territories, let's say in the area of this, to the south of the city of Orekhov, around the settlements of Novoselovka, Gulyai-Polya. The Russians want to use this money to restore Kurachovo, Pokrovsk, let's say Mirnograd. The Russians want to use this money to restore the city of Bakhmut, maybe Konstantinovka, the city of Seversk, Kupin. So everything that is under their control, which obviously something that Ukraine will not, let's say, accept, because not just Ukraine, but the European countries as well. Everybody wants to get these $200 billion. So that is why they're going to talk about this today. So anyway, let's wait and see what is going to be next. But this is obviously a very interesting situation. At the same time, we see that the European countries and Ukraine itself is in a hurry. They try to make a deal as soon as possible. And the main reason of this, of course, is the situation in the energy sector of Ukraine. So this is the article and analysis that was published by a pro-Russian source. And here we can see infographic on electricity availability across Ukraine's regions as of January 22nd, 2026. K-Matrix average daily electricity availability is just 8 hours, so basically 34% of the day. War situation in Ternopil Oblast, so this is the Ternopil Oblast. Here we can see just 8.7% of electricity availability. Imagine yourself, just several hours. Best situation in Rivne Oblast, so this is the Rivne Oblast, and here we have the Rivne nuclear power station. Maybe this is the reason. So as you can see, the situation is very difficult. For example, very critical situation in the Poltavsky region. So here we can see only 9.5% of daily electricity availability. So the situation in the central and the eastern part of Ukraine is very difficult, and this is the reason why people began protesting during the previous, for example, night. We received lots of updates from different parts of Ukraine about protests that began. For example, this is the video that we received from the settlement of Khmelnytsky. Mass protest is taking place in Khmelnytsky near the city council building. Several dozen protesters came to the city council, blocking traffic in the city center. Ukrainian channels report conflict with police. So once again, if we return back to the map, here we can see that the worst situation in Ukraine is taking place exactly in the area of Ternopilsky region, so 8.7. As for the Khmelnytsky region, where we just watch the protests, the electricity daily availability is 25%. Furthermore, the sources are saying that protests began on the territory of the city of Kryvyi Rog. Local residents blocked the road in Kryvyi Rog because they're tired of having no electricity. And the more the Russians attack the territory of Ukraine with missiles and drones, the more protests we'll see. And obviously, this can lead to the situation when the entire Ukraine will fall in Russia's hands without negotiations, without talks, and without sharing with the Russia's frozen assets. So that is why the Western countries, Ukraine, are trying to finish the deal as soon as possible. But at the same time, Steve Whitkoff, the representative of the United States of America, stated that the document could be concluded somewhere by the autumn of 2026. Not tomorrow, not today, not during the spring, not during the summer, but during autumn of 2026, the conflict could be resolved peacefully. So which means that there are still 8 months of clashes are ahead of us. And you know that according to different experts, the Russians during the same period of time are able to establish complete control over the rest of Donbas region. So that is why the Russians by the autumn of 2026 can also change their positions, and they can make them much more harder and much more strong for Ukraine. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours, the Russians improved their positions to the south of the settlement of Zelenskyy. This is the map, and these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the situation by the end of the 20th of January, this is the end of the 21st of January, and this is the end of the 22nd of January. This is the beginning of the 22nd of January. As you can see, the Russians improved their positions and captured this huge, let's say, railway station, these 3 lines, and the Russians continue offensive further. Pro-Ukrainian sources published a video of how they were bombing positions of the armed forces of the Russian in this area, and based on this video we have adjusted the map. So as we discussed during the previous videos, the Russians are trying to cut the settlement of Zelenskyy in pincers from the south and from the east. As for the Dobropolye direction, during the previous 24 hours, clashes continue in the area of the settlement of Grishna. This video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were counterattacking in the southeastern part of the settlement of Grishna, and as a result of this counteroffensive, the Ukrainians managed to capture 2 or 3 Russian soldiers. So this episode took place right exactly at this point, and based on this video, we have adjusted the map. So as you can see, the dynamic in this area is pretty fast. This is the situation by the end of the 18th of January, this is the end of the 19th of January, this is the end of the 20th, this is the 21st, and this is the beginning of the 22nd of January of 2026. So as of now, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the area of the settlement of Grishna with just one task: to establish complete control over the territory and to get the northwestern part of the settlement. So this is a very important village, because at the same time the Russians continue their offensive operation around around the settlements of Novodonbass, Novoshakovo, Dorozhny, Ivanovka. We have adjusted the map in this area as well, based on the video that was also published by pro-Ukrainian sources. And here we can see how Ukrainians were FPV-droning Russians in this area. So we see that the Russians are trying to improve their positions and basically to cut in pincers this pocket. We are talking about the villages of Vadyanskaya, Svetlaya, Shevchenka, and the city of Belitskaya. The Russians, by these flanking maneuvers, are trying to encircle Ukrainians in this area and to force them to fall back. So all these maneuvers are telling us just about one thing. The Russians began their major offensive operation with the purpose to establish complete control over the rest of the Donbas region. Now let's discuss the situation in Konstantinovka. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were also recorded. The Ukrainians attacked Russians in these points, so based on this video we made small correction, as you can see. The most important video is coming from the western part of the city of Konstantinovka, and here we can see how Russians, as a result of attack, destroyed almost completely the entire building. So the clashes currently are taking place in the western part of the city of Konstantinovka. The Ukrainians are bringing more and more forces in this area with the purpose not to allow the Russians to establish control over the Konstantinovka citadel. We are talking about this part. As you can see, there are lots of high-rise buildings. Ukrainians are sending more and more troops in this direction with the purpose to stabilize the situation, to bring fresh forces. The Russians control the main supply lines in this area and attack everything they see as soon as they see it. So in this video we can see how a vehicle with reinforcement was destroyed. Another important thing I would like to point to your attention that several days ago we received a report that the Russians destroyed the bridge through the river of Lazova. This bridge was destroyed, and this is one of the most important bridges in this area that connected the southern part, let's say not the southern part, but the southern part of the city of Konstantinovka when talking about the river of Krivoy Tarets. So as you can see, there is a river, and there are not so many places where this river can be crossed by Ukrainians. So this river divides the city of Konstantinovka in two pieces, the southern one and the northern one. The Russians cut the southern parts by destroying the logistic, and now they're trying to establish complete control over the Konstantinovka citadel. So most likely the clashes in this area will continue for another day or two or even three, and then we will understand the results. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the northern Kharkiv direction. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were also recorded. The Russians improved their positions in the area of the village of Volchansky Hutory. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. We made these changes based on the video published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russian soldiers that were moving through the settlement. So as you can see, the Russians continue expanding their position on the Ukrainian side of the river of Volcha, and most likely in coming days the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm complete control over the settlement of Volchansky Hutory. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.